Rachel.
Here.
Counselor Pagano's absent, Morley, Counselor Judge.
So, we kind of did last time, whatever you want to talk about, so if you've got some points, but, you know, if we could talk about salaries and then, any of the major changes here,
Okay.
you might jump in.
As far as salaries, I had initially put in for 2 full-time lieutenants to work Monday through Friday to take on the commercial codes issue. The mayor had cut that to one part-time inspector, 20 hours a week at $30 an hour. I understand he's, trying to give us something to make this better. But my position is that part-time person isn't gonna correct the issue. So as far as salaries, that's the only changes that I'm aware of. And I guess that's gonna depend on where you folks are gonna do the commercial codes and go forward. And I've stated, numerous times that if we just keep doing it the way we are doing it, it's not going to get better. So that's why I put those positions in there along with the thing we'll talk about later with the inspection program to get this conversation going and moving forward.
The question I had, so I was looking at the salary schedule, it's $2,089,000. The proposed budget here is 2.1 million by like 13,000.
I don't have the 2,081,000 figure.
So I guess, yeah, it's a adopted salary schedule. I think maybe we just have it here. So this page 65 here, 2,089,000. And then you have the salary is 2.1 million. It's not much, but there's 13,000 more.
It's way down in Dawson County.
Yeah, I'd have to get clarification on that because the numbers I'm showing for what I requested as opposed to what the mayor submitted. I don't see that.
So fully staffed plus 2 lieutenants.
What I requested, yeah, that'll put it at 2,233,000 what was requested.
Okay. And then, so for the part-time thing, do we want to hold that until we figure out the codes situation?
Yeah, 100%.
You guys feel that way?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not opposed looking at staffing levels and what we need to do.
Sure.
That obviously is an issue we have to fix, but for the time being, it's not my plan or my intention to put a part-time person
Okay.
in the fire department.
My thought process with that is almost like what the sheriffs do at schools. So you get a retired guy that can't make over a certain amount of money, comes in, does, the inspections, just the inspections. Maybe if you have 2 of the part-time guys, that's kind of where I was at.
Do something like that.
100% agree. We can take it off till we figure it out.
How does the union feel about part-timers?
It would be obviously a discussion that would have to be made. We've never had part-time fire side of things. The housing inspector, when he was under us, was a part-time employee, but it wasn't fire work. It was separate.
Different.
So,
Okay.
I do, again, I appreciate the mayor trying to do something with that. But that part-time role, that's part of our issue is the communication with the business owners, consumers, having contact with that person, when is he here, when is he not here, and things like that. So I think that, although it may help, I don't think that's the answer.
Okay. All right, so we'll pull that out. 31,200 And then I will, I'll follow up with an email about the 2,089,000 versus the 2.1. I'll put Leanne on that. And I'll make a note for this.
And what was that figure?
So 31,200.
No, I mean, the 2,089,000 you said?
Oh, it was 2,089,096.
It's in our salary schedule, and then on your budget,
Is it longevity?
it has that 2.2.
I don't know.
I know his longevity is
Could be something.
3,000.
Could be.
Yeah,
It
but,
could be.
yeah, probably longevity.
Yeah.
Something that stuff.
Okay.
The next thing I want to discuss would be the EMS training overtime. It's listed at 5,000. It's not anything that was changed. It was I call it an oversight on my part. These 7 members that we currently have doing the critical care to paramedic bridge program. With talking to our grant writer, we can use some of that grant money to pay the agreement that was made with the members taking that. But we can only use that money when the grant was accepted moving forward. So there's 4 months at the beginning part of this year that we're responsible to pay their overtime costs for that training that we graciously got them to do. So doing the figures of that for all 7 of them for that 4-month period is going to be roughly $25,000. So I'd like to move that to a $30,000 line total. Again, that was an oversight on my part. I kind of lost track of that. I got lost in the weeds a little bit.
EMS overtime.
Yeah, the 107.
So the grant starts May?
The grant will cover from August of 23
Okay.
until they complete that course. Plus, then it also, we can use it for the new people going to a complete paramedic class. But there's a 4-month period in there that, with the MOA that we signed with the union, that we need to cover that overtime.
So 30,000 the city is on the hook for, and the rest would be grant. Or
It would be roughly 25,000, but I still have the 5,000 I originally asked for just to do our normal, yearly training for EMS.
So total 30.
Total 30, correct.
it's only 25. So So 25 more thousand for the paramedic program.
Correct.
Could any of that be absorbed through the other overtime line?
I don't believe so. I mean, there may be a surplus at the end of the year. I might have a surplus at the end of this year in my overtime. I'm doing good this year on that.
Okay.
And as we go farther into some of the other things, I'll explain why, that might not be available there.
Okay. I'm wondering if we could, well, I guess it's not gonna make a difference if we budget for it now or move it from your overtime line this year.
Right.
Any thoughts?
Well, we can't carry it over from this year,
Right.
so it's either budget it somewhere.
Unless there's this would be probably a question for Leanne. I mean, it's per the MOA, it's paid at the 2023 rate, and it's time worked during 2023.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's, but there was an agreement that they wouldn't be paid for, because typically our training isn't paid until you completed it.
Mhm.
So the agreement was it wouldn't be paid until 2024.
So I guess if in theory,
So, I mean, realistically, if I had the money left over in this overtime budget, we could
decrease.
contact the union and offer to pay them that money this year. I don't think they'd be, opposed to getting it sooner than later. But
Was
So
the
if,
agreement they would get at once completing the course?
so it's kind of layered. Yes, if they complete the whole course, they get, the full amount. If they don't complete it 100%, they get prorated based on the amount of time they put into the course.
so for the regular overtime, if we continue on the same trajectory, I know you mentioned that it might go up. It would be 110 for the year, so could we move theoretically 30 from that line to?
Next year?
Yes.
Next year's, I don't believe so. And because I'll explain that right now we're fully staffed, so I'm trending less than the 140. Next year, we have anticipated retirements.
Okay.
And so that 140, like I said, we'll get into some of the other
Okay.
lines when we get there.
Okay.
All right, so, I guess, yeah. So how do they come in on an off day to take this? Is that why there's so much overtime?
It's a
Is-
self-paced, online program.
Okay,
We figured it at 20-something hours a month is what it kind of averaged out to be.
okay.
What's the total hours on that, out of curiosity?
For that program, it's 300 hours is what the figure that we agreed upon.
But they still have to do practicals and all that stuff eventually.
There's one practical at the end and then a written thing. So in total, for all 7 of them to complete that program, I got it figured at just under $95,000 if they all completed 100%. Now, that's 7 of them for $95,000. When we get into the full paramedic program, that was looking at sending 8, and we got $500,000. So we got 7 people certified for a quarter of the cost.
Mhm.
So, and we're gonna, almost not quite double our number of paramedics between the 2 programs, so.
So so they typically, like the routine fire stuff, that's like, what would you say, 8 to 4, 8 AM to 4 PM or 8 to 5?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard,
Sure.
with the calls,
Sure.
not inspections,
Sure.
but, a typical day is the 8 to 5, I would say.
So is this something, after that time, because they're 24-hour shifts, can they do like 3 hours a night type of thing? Yeah, obviously depending on calls.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, being it's a self-paced
Sure,
program when they have time to do it. Obviously, they may do some studying, but when it comes to the program itself, they don't like to get into the program on duty, because if they do get pulled away. So, I mean, obviously there's,
sure.
the hours that the program gave us, roughed out 300 hours, 21 hours per month. But the amount of time that they're actually putting in, because I mean, how do you adjust or put a number on how much you have to study versus how much I have to study? So they're putting in a lot more than just the 21 hours. That was just kind of the only numbers that we had to go off of.
Okay, so you're going by the, so they can study as much as they want, but you're not putting in for overtime.
Not for the study time. That's just, like I said, that was the program didactic hours was 21 hours a month is kind of how worked out.
The
So that's the
actual
only-
Sitting in front of the computer.
Correct.
doing-
Correct. And, you know, they're keep telling me like, man, this is a lot of work to do this program. So there's a lot to it.
Once they start a module, I know it takes a couple different things on mine. And there's some classes, once you start the module, they don't let you quit it until you're, they don't let you pause it until you're done. Now, is that the way that works when they start a module, or can they just
I'm
say,
not
go
a-
and do one or a chapter and then walk away from it, or?
I'm not 100% sure. I haven't got into the program, you know.
I'm just curious, so.
Yeah.
I'm a little curious too, Chief. So we're paying overtime for a required training course?
No, so New York State, in 2027, they have what's called a critical care EMS level. In 2027, June of 2027, they're eliminating that. Currently, we have 7 people at that level, which is just below a paramedic level. In 2027, they will automatically drop down a level if they don't move up to the paramedic level. So essentially, our service is gonna drop from what we are currently providing. So the state came up with this bridge program. Like I said, is not a full paramedic program to get these critical cares to that program. So it's, you know, moving forward, whether we ever get to a ambulance or not, like this is the groundwork of one, maintaining what we provide for the citizens, and if that's ever on the horizon, we can't do that without paramedics. So just kind of, I want to say getting ahead of the curve, but maintaining at least what we have.
Yeah, I get that. I guess I'm just more concerned logistically with the enactment and how we're going through the training, and why can it not be done, you know, during the day? You know, Councilor Winchell's point, you know, can you do 2 hours and pause it and go back and do 2 more hours and pause it and go back and do 2 more hours? Or does that make sense what I'm saying to you? So
It does. I just, with, you know, the agreement that was made with them, like I don't, obviously do some studying and stuff while they're on duty when they have downtime, but as far as the taking the tests and those things, like I'm not encouraging them to do that on duty, because I don't want to completely eliminate them from their normal duties, you know, daily duties, I guess.
So are all 21 hours a test though?
Not a test, but it, you know, it's a, you know, modules or what you may call it.
Okay. Could you do me a favor? Could we look into this tomorrow? Can you sit down and maybe take a look at these modules? And maybe you and I can sit down and take a look at it, maybe go through it and see, you know,
Okay.
what exactly it is they're doing or seeing, or, you know, is this something that can be done periodically or intermittently, or is this something that has to be done all at one fell swoop? The test, I understand, you know, that I get. You don't want to be on duty. You want to be off duty taking a test, right? But I can't imagine that's over an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending on the length of it. But the other 20 or 19 hours, let's say, is this something that can be done intermittently while you're on duty? Take 2 hours a day, go do your training. You go take another 2 hours a day to your training. You know, that I'd be interested to see, and that may not be the case. I may be wrong about that. But it's just something to look at, right?
Okay.
Because I have no problem paying the money for an overtime for a test, right? That's perfectly acceptable. But the actual execution of a training requirement from the state, you know, can it be done? I mean, can we save some money here? I guess really is my question.
Potentially.
So why don't you and I take a look at that and see if, and again, I might be dead wrong about that, and I'll be the first one to admit it, but why don't we put a pin in it for now and take a look at it?
You guys are doing other trainings throughout the day too, right? Not just.
Correct.
It wouldn't be just this paramedic. You
Correct.
guys-
They have their normal 100-hour training.
So it's,
You know, some of them are, the inspectors are doing that training. There's,
so it's like a
you know.
couple hours a day. It might be tough.
well, I'll look at it.
So there's a lot then that goes, there's a normal daily training regimen.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
All right, so we'll make a note and then come back. Okay.
The next one I would like to address is the 103, the retirement payout. With the anticipated retirements, it's hard to put a number on this, and historically, it's not necessarily budgeted, but so you are aware, I know there are two people are planning on leaving first quarter next year. So that's the payouts of their, balances of their accounts per the contract. Typically it's offset with the remaining salary and things like that, but just so you're aware that that's gonna either impact the salary line or the overtime line, one way or another. Unless there's money is budgeted there. Each person would be different based on, what their accruals are. The 114, the short shift line, that's where, again, it's going to affect the normal overtime line. That was, so where it all kind of gets muddy with that is, if those two people leave in the first quarter of this coming year, you're looking at, by the time we hire, train them and everything, you're not looking at a full-time person until the first part of December of next year. So that's two positions that are left empty and will require overtime to fill if somebody else has day off, whether it's vacation or anything like that. So that was an estimate on that. That's not the full figure, because I was anticipating, using their remaining salaries to also cover some of that short shift overtime. So that's where all the overtime money kind of gets blurry, trying to, not completely inflate one to cover it solely, but to move monies from one overtime to the other to cover all that. And I have roughly, if my numbers are correct from when I did this, I'm looking at 151 shifts that would potentially be left short with those two retirements. So that's roughly $144,000.
How many do we have on a shift?
A full shift is 6. Typically one person has a day off, so that'd be 5. The only time we would do the short shift is when, we've been running a 5-man minimum since 2006 is how we've been running with a 5-man minimum to cover our 2 in, 2 out requirements through OSHA. Ready?
Yeah, we're good.
The next one would be to the 408 line, which is a new hire expenses. Again, with the anticipated retirements, that 26,000 that I put in there would cover the implementation of hiring two new recruits, training, equipment, uniforms, physicals, things along that line. So, those last three, they all kind of play a part together.
Do something.
If we don't for sure they're leaving, this is probably something we're gonna push into the budget.
Yeah, I do not have, actual letters of intent, but having conversations with them. I'm looking at one at the end of, January and one at the end of March, I believe. And then potentially, this one's a little more up in the air of a third one, September timeframe, but that's, not willing to say that one's a certain at this point.
So potentially end of January, but did we budget, obviously we budgeted for the full year salary.
Correct. Yeah, and that's where I'm only asking for the 56,000 for short shift staffing, because there is, his remaining salary, which obviously is paid at a higher rate than that new person coming in,
Right.
which they would actually be starting probably in August, but when they actually become in the building is not until December, Thanksgiving, first part of December.
Sure. Okay.
It's all the schooling and stuff that have to go through and all that.
Correct, but by the time our list that we have right now is pretty much expired, not expired, but it's, there's not much on there left, so we're getting another test in the spring. By the time that test comes back and we go through the whole hiring process, we're rushing to get somebody in. The August academy is typically it, so that's where the whole time frame plays out.
You mentioned earlier 151 shifts. What did you say that dollar figure was?
Roughly 144,000.
Thank you.
Can you start the hiring process now, or do you have to wait until those two get hired?
So our eligibility list, when we gave it a year or so ago, there was only, say, 10 on there. Between eliminating candidates and them getting hired at other places, we don't have really a very good list left, essentially. So, other than possibly getting a lateral transfer from another agency,
How often does that happen?
we've done it here. It's not a common practice, but we have done
I mean, that's a pretty common thing in the police service, right? The lateral transfers is more than it would be in fire. Yeah.
We're good with Machi.
it.
Whenever you're ready for your next one.
So lastly, I know it's not necessarily on the budget. Last year, we discussed apparatus. I want to discuss it again, just because, this budget process is a little unconventional with how things went. Last year, I came and asked to do a lease for the rescue vehicle to replace that. Got pushed off till the last budget time. Since then, we put almost $9,000 into that truck with framework and things like that. To replace that vehicle, the exact replica of that vehicle, you're looking at over $250,000. With the inflation of everything at this point. I would like to downsize that vehicle to something that's a little less expensive and a little more easily replaceable, because that is, gets run every day, all day long. Whether you folks want me to try the lease route or purchasing, I'm thinking purchasing, we should be able to replace that with what I'm looking at for $100,000 or less, and get the same life expectancy as this one did. Lasted 10 years.
It'll probably be less expensive to operate too, I would
I
assume.
believe so. It's I'm looking at more of a 2,500 pickup with a utility bed style on the back. That way there, again, it's not as big of an expense to replace, and it's a little easier upkeep on it. So again, I know other departments are using leasing and doing things along that route, but I don't, which direction you'd like to go. Last year, when we had this discussion, the rescue we have now was roughly worth $50,000 to $60,000. I don't know if it's, I'm sure it's dropped some. I haven't got a new figure on that yet. But that's something that does need to be replaced. Like I said, I think whether it's a lease or not, it could be done for $100,000 or less.
What are we looking at for large equipment replacement, engines and stuff like that?
So like anything else, I think DPW has the same thing. You're looking at a 3-year window until you actually see something like that. So, again, I guess that's not why it's necessarily in this budget, is it's 3 years down the road.
Okay.
So if we sign papers today, it's not pulling in for 3 years. So
What I mean, what is when you're gonna start possibly looking to replace that equipment?
we are looking at it. That was why at the last meeting I brought up that reserve fund. It's probably not going to do a lot for us in this first large purchase. Of 293 is the one that is due. That's coming up on 20 years of age. So if we order it today, it's probably going to get here about that 20-year age. Just a small breakdown with that. Last year and this year alone, we've spent $15,000 in repairs on that piece of equipment. And that's not including the annual recertification tests of the pumps and things like that. That's
So it
just
has to be done.
right. These are just repairs. So we've been talking to vendors, getting ideas with leasing. So that's a whole new, avenue that we haven't done with the city with large pieces like that. I've been working with Leanne, just trying to get the logistics of that figured out. I like the idea of the leasing program just for the fact if you lease it for 10 to 15 years, when you're getting close to that, it's in our minds, okay, what are we gonna do, to replace it, to get on some sort of schedule. That's what we're lacking and have been lacking for a long time, is we're not on a replacement schedule for these large pieces. So, engine 3, again, is a 2008. Engine 1's a 2010, so it's not far behind it. Our ladder truck is a 1998. That was refurbed back in 2016, but you're looking at, it's almost 30 years old. They're all kind of, I want to start this process now, so they're not all going to happen at once. So, how that fits into this budget or the next, that's where I'd like to work with you folks to get that figured out. Because again, like we talked in the last meeting, each one of these is at least $1 million.
It's gonna be a major capital project.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, ladders.
but I kind of agree with the idea of a rotation, get them on a rotation. I like
Right.
that idea.
Yeah.
The three probably.
Yes, I mean, that's for, today's prices, and obviously there's a incremental increase every year, so again, it's a lot of money, but it's not gonna get cheaper as we progress, so.
Now, maybe we can look at, we've got a sort of a bond schedule where certain things will, the debt service here, certain things will end up coming off. Which doesn't look like anytime soon. But, yeah,
Well, and also, most of this stuff's gonna end up recorded with the referendum. Cause it's gonna be over $1 million.
yeah. The,
That was some of the questions that we were trying to get answers with the leasing portion of it is, so my basic understanding of it, the one company we talked to was the total price is $1 million, 1.2 or something like that. We order it. Once we have the spec written, that company goes to, or the leasing company basically pays for it up front. They go to a third party and say, what will you give us for this at the end of the lease? Then we're financing the first 10 years or whatever the term of the lease is. When we get to the end, you have the options of just ordering another one, and let that one go down the road, or buying it from that third party, for the remainder, if it is, still in good shape or whatnot, and there's value there. And that's where I think it at least gets the conversation started of what are we gonna do in 10 to 15 years for each one. But you do have the option to, maintain that vehicle if you wanna hang on to it for another 10 years or so, but it at least starts that conversation.
maybe that's something you could do, because I know we talked about maybe an overall picture of our fleet. So maybe put something together where things don't get too old.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I kind of got off track a little bit, but per the referendum was if we're only financing, 600,000 for that 10-year period, is it required to go the referendum route?
Yeah, so if it's a 1.2 truck, only got money,
We're not
purchasing
buying
for
it.
600.
We have to go to referendum anytime we bond over $1 million. If we're leasing something for 10 years and we're gonna spend 600,000 over 10 years, we're not bonding for it, well, then no, it doesn't go to referendum.
Right.
Anything we bond, one shot over $1 million.
Another
We've
good
already
reason
got-
to do lease.
We've got the plow trucks on rotation. Police cars, of course, through the leasing program. Really, fire apparatus is the only thing that there's no plan,
I think that we need to look at that.
definitely.
All right.
Looking back to the rest of it, so you think that needs to be done this year?
Too, for
The rescue truck, yes. Again, it's used daily for everything, and it's that $7,000 repair to the frame at the beginning of this year was essentially just to get it until
The Band-Aid.
till we can get something to replace it.
Yeah.
Cause that, the figures we got to actually completely refurb it wasn't worth, it wasn't gonna buy us another 10 years on that truck, so.
Can you get us some pricings on what that's gonna cost? And
Yes, I have been working on that. I was hoping to have one today, but, yes, absolutely.
can't guarantee anything, but at least we got some numbers.
So I think that's all I have, unless you have more questions for me.
I just look at the SUVs, I mean, that went up because of cost of
Yeah, it went up to 1,000 because the annual, within that budget's, making sure our air tests are, done and
Just
just,
the cost of.
yeah, everything's, yeah.
Okay.
You wanna talk a little bit about the capital project, even though it's codes related and it's subject to change, well.
Yeah,
that part.
I think, I know this has been brought to council in years past, and it hasn't made it through the budget. But again, I put it in there to get this conversation started of what we're gonna do. That was a, per the, state that came in and did the investigation in our department, that was a big default of we just don't have a, 21st century way to track this stuff. So, that was a recommendation. It was, the codes department, again, has brought it in the past fire chiefs have brought it in the past. I don't, either way, whatever direction the codes work goes, the software program is gonna help either department. And there's things in there that, both can use no matter what direction it goes. As simple as, I looked at one just the other day, just trying to get an idea how they all work, and it's as simple as you need a building permit, you can go online and fill out the building permit and do everything through that, and then you can check in to see the status of the building permit, and they can just keep updating it through that whole program, and it seems like it cut down on.
So essentially, they wouldn't need to come here then, essentially. They wouldn't have to come to the physical building.
They wouldn't have to, the way that looks. I mean, they could just get everything online, and once it says it's completed, they can upload, their drawings or whatever to that program. It would cut down on phone calls and different things like that. I think there was even a portion where it'd be more on the construction side, I guess, but the user could actually click on and say, ready for an inspection. So, and it could, and then it, obviously like any of that software, it'll sit there and track, you've got these upcoming ones, you've got some that are, a little behind that are, 30 days past due or whatever. But yeah,
Pretty savvy.
it beats a
Technology, I love it.
Excel spreadsheet, so,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
So we need a break. Get right into it.
Thank you.
Taking my seat right now. It's riveting.
Have your seat sealed for all night.
Yeah.
We're just getting warmed up.
Ah, great. I should go refill my coffee then. Since it's coming.
Well, during the countdown, it was hot.
Probably just off.
I know.
No, it's pretty good. It keeps it nice and warm.
Oh. Heating here.
I don't know.
Then you were at the council and you were roasted.
It was 75 hours.
Yeah.
People think it should be empty. So,
Did everybody get the new spreadsheet that Leanne sent?
Oh,
I
Is that the
didn't,
new one from today?
Yeah.
I didn't check
Oh, I
my
didn't print it
email.
out.
Okay. I didn't look.
Which one do you have, Steve?
Leanne just sent one today.
Can I take a look at?
Yeah,
May I
sure.
approach the bench?
I can go print some. Want me to go print some?
Let's see what the
Oh, yeah.
diff-
Okay.
Holy cow, we got a lot.
let's see what the difference is. If you want. I think she just said the totals were different.
Yeah.
Right, it was just.
Yeah, if you want, do you want some? Yeah, scanner.
I don't have a scanner, but I got a printer, so I'll be right back.
You want to do that?
Thank you, yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
So we're all on the same page.
We'll wait.
You want to scan and email it to her, or is that what you want?
No, she emailed it, we just need it printed.
Yeah.
While we're waiting.
This is the new one. Old one. 3,073,000 was the total. This is 3,084,000. Yeah, she got it.
I know. So it's a new, is it in these sheets, the one that's not good?
130,000.
That's the old one.
I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Okay, forward to me.
He's doing it now too, about four.
But is it police or is it in
Thank
general?
you.
like
It's just police.
Oh. Forward it to you.
It's odd to see, but nice to see police revenue bigger than its expenses.
So we try and keep that.
Would say more itemized, I should say.
Yeah. How was Todd's first experience as director of traffic?
Good, enjoyed it. You heard about him helping a 3-year-old.
I didn't.
He and Johnny were walking the beat, or whatever you want to call it, and a 3-year-old little boy was running down Cleveland. He looked like he didn't know where he was going. So Todd approached him, walked up to him, and was terrified. So he started to run down the side street. So they followed him, thank God. He was missing his mommy.
Oh.
His mom was up in front with Justin.
No kidding.
And Commissioner Jones brought her to him,
Nice.
and she was hysterical,
Oh,
but luckily they were alert. and
yeah,
had their
really.
eyes
Thank
open.
God for that.
Yeah, could have gone way different.
Yeah.
He had escaped down a side street or something, house or something.
Yeah.
But no, he liked it. He read it. You want?
Oh, I got one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had it next week, just in case somebody.
Thank you, Kyle.
You got it.
All right, yours.
Well, I'll open it and say, first would like to address any questions, just based on what was proposed in my budget originally to, or do we want to work down the line, or
Sure.
what's your format? What do you prefer the format?
I'll ask the same thing as last. So our salary schedule is 2,707,000. The 2025 city manager is 2,789,000. So I guess what is the
Wait. I have the proposed as 2,707,773.
oh, you have that too?
That's in the salary schedule, right? And then
Yep.
Yeah.
the new one just got printed, right?
2789.
279, right?
Yeah, somebody,
It's the same thing happened with fire. It must be like longevity or something. that
So-
it's like-
So
I think that's
what,
it is.
so what happens, I know that in the salary line, Leanne built in, the way our contract works, we have a lot of moving targets that are very hard to predict. One of those is shift differential, based on which officers, which work which shift. So they don't get paid for the days off. They don't get paid a differential. They only get paid if they work that overtime and it's based on a percentage. So it's a moving target that does get built in.
Okay.
Shift differential gets built in to that salary line. That's where that comes out of. It's just a global amount, not, like I said, it's very difficult depending on which officer works which shift.
Sure.
So that may be some of it. That's a buffer there, that covers the full year of shift differential.
Good. All right, well, I'll do the same thing. I'll follow up with everybody. I'll just see if Leanne has. Would she work this out? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll put her on it.
That's where we're at. I'll start with my staffing schedule.
Mhm.
Did everybody? I don't know if you received a copy of. At the beginning of this year, I had asked New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services to come in and do an administrative study of our police department. Did everybody get a copy of that?
I think so.
At one point. So what I put in for extra positions or additional positions, not extra, additional positions for 2024. Those were cut out of the budget. And so I'd asked DCJS to come in and do an administrative study, and they came back again with the same recommendation for additional positions based on workload. So essentially it's a workload analysis. Do we have enough cops to handle what we do day to day? Covering a snapshot in time for 2022 data. So that's what I put in for this year, was an additional 3 positions at the patrol officer level. We've got a lot of moving pieces at the police department. In 2025, I anticipate 6 additional retirements. Those retirements consist of 3 sergeants, one of them being the investigative sergeant, an officer, and an investigator. Policing, since after COVID, 2020, we've experienced decreases in people that are interested in taking our job, the job of law enforcement. And it's due to a whole host of issues. So we're fighting the recruitment and retention battle that the rest of the nation is fighting. We're experiencing significant mission creep to face the social ills of society that we're often called as first to secure scenes first and respond. We do a great job. We had just recently having a local police department is pivotal in timeliness of response. We just had the fatal crash just outside the city where we were the first ones there, and our officers recovered the juveniles that crashed into the car at Peterborough and West Street just not too long ago. Even though we have concurrent jurisdiction with a number of agencies, we are the first ones there. Whether it be nation police, state police, or the sheriff's office, we are the first ones there. Or New York State Park Police in terms of the canalways. So that's the city police department. So I had put in for 3 extra positions just to cover our day-to-day operations. Additionally, I had put in for some other title changes for our civilian staff, which is much needed. I talked about it before when you graciously gave us the senior account clerk position, which is much needed to change that title. But also our records clerk, and it's classified as a telephone operator. She does much more than answer phones. And as well as our community service officer. I'll say that the rates for the records clerk that are reflected here are lower than what that position is worth or value. Also, as we move forward, and I understand 3 positions, that dollar amount would be a tough swing to take in, but I am not going to be full staffed in 2025 if I have 6 retirements. Given the civil service list being what it is, the 3 recruits, thankfully, are on field training right now. See them at the end of January, and they started their police training in May. So it's a length of time to get through processing. We're being very aggressive right now in anticipation of a new civil service list. And as it stands right now, we have currently 5 vacancies. So it'll be a tough game to recruit, retain, and handle the day-to-day service. But as we talk about recruitment and retention, also need to talk about risk. And risk of the citizens, the businesses, the commuters that come through, and then also officer safety and putting our officers at risk of fatigue and burnout. Also putting them at risk by not being able to provide training. So that's where my budget is coming from. It's from a risk management standpoint in evaluation of everybody and trying to play that balancing act as well as you all have to play as well. So I think tonight's meeting is pointed. It's titled a work session, and we certainly have our work ahead of us. And I'm very much looking to work through and hope I can hear everybody's considerations, and I hope that you can hear mine too as we work through and develop a plan. Again, we're increasing staffing. Our staffing had not changed since the late 80s up until a couple years ago, and even though the job has changed significantly, we talk about administrative burdens, the implementation of body-worn cameras, which are a great tool. The officers like the body-worn cameras, but that adds an administrative task, a time element to the job function. And that's just one element. There's so much other reporting that goes into things now where there never was before.
Mhm.
But it's all beneficial to provide the best quality service that we possibly can to the city. So the 3 positions were one thing that I put in, title changes for our civilian staff, all of which is coupled with the fact that we are in a contract negotiations with the PBA. And so that being in mind, I don't know where you folks, the council is in planning to budget for any potential cost of living raises that might be coming as that shakes out. So that's what I have to say about the salaries.
Okay. So you said 6 retirements you have?
I have a potential of 6.
Because I only wrote down 5. So 3 sergeants, 1 officer, 1 investigator,
Yes, sir.
and what's the other one?
CSO.
I'm sorry, 4 sergeants.
4
4 sergeants.
Okay.
One's a CID sergeant.
Okay. So 6, okay. So 5 vacancies. So I'm showing that there's 15 police officer positions that are budgeted in our salary schedule.
Correct.
And that's, that includes the 3 extra that you put in for?
That does not include,
Oh, didn't,
I put in for 18 officer positions.
okay. So that does not include,
Correct.
okay. Okay.
So
So are you saying we only have 10 right now if there's 5 vacancies?
we have, no, we don't have 10 vacancies.
No, 5 vacancies.
5
Did you say 5? So
five
there's only
vacancies.
10 officers right now?
Correct.
Okay.
So operationally,
Oh my God.
the day-to-day operations of the police department, I have sergeants that count towards our minimum staffing levels.
Mhm.
And I also have a lieutenant that counts towards our minimum staffing levels, which means that a sergeant or a lieutenant could be running a call for service, but we're paying them to be a supervisor.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean that they're absolved of doing police work. It just means that then the system breaks down where the supervisors are handling whatever call that they're on. Essentially, they're doing other works. So we can't fully utilize them for the position and capacity that we hired them for and are paying them for. So I'm trying to move out of that model where we can have our sergeants truly do the job that we're absolutely paying them for, and our lieutenant, who's number 4 in command of the police department, to not have to handle calls for service. And that, like I said, it doesn't absolve them from having to do police work, but also they're an administrator in the police department, they need to be utilized that way. So that's also part of that 18 position number. As we have shortages going into 2025, like I said from the beginning, we will not be fully staffed. Overtime needs to be a consideration to cover our minimum staffing levels. So while we can move money from my salary line into cover some overtime, we just need to, I want to keep that as a consideration as we work through the 2025 budget.
Sure. Now, do these salaries factor in that you may not hire somebody January 1,
Which ones?
any of them?
So we budgeted the 15,
So,
starting January 1.
okay. So there's a potential that you probably won't fill all of them January 1.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So can we,
Or you'll be eating up overtime.
I'll be eating overtime.
okay,
At time, overtime's time and a half.
okay.
What's the starting salary for an officer to come here?
It's
71?
no, it's not 71.
I'm just curious.
It's a good question.
And we're not doing any kind of a sign-on bonus to incentivize?
I took 3 runs at a sign-on bonus, and they all failed to pass the PBA.
Okay,
We couldn't get it done.
okay.
That has to go through the PBA, it's not something we can use as a council.
That's a great question, one that's been circulated around. The issue, if we do it without negotiating with the PBA, we present the opportunity for agreements where there's a benefit being provided to a member of the union. And then if something changes where that benefit is no longer realized, it presents the opportunity for agreements. So I'd rather have something set with the union. And also,
Makes sense, I'm just curious.
yeah, no, and because I've had that exact, that question. And then also looking at, like I said before, recruitment and retention. And recruitment and retention doesn't always necessarily boil down to dollars and cents, but it can be in ways of opportunity for different specialized assignments and things like that. In order to do that, we gotta have staffing to begin with.
Right.
But I think the overall goal of, I apologize for being on my phone, I'm just looking for, I know I have a picture of our salary schedule.
Oh,
I believe it's 76,000.
well, I know what the average of,
I
mean,
it's
you're-
76, but,
Your police officer, 50 to 76, that's how I quickly did it, but.
yeah, I did that, I just wonder what they start out at.
Yeah, I don't know what they said,
Never knew.
but it's our average right now.
Yep.
Grade 1, so academy rate is 23.34 an hour. If you multiply that by 2080, that's the academy rate.
Thought it was like 63.
Yeah, $30.53 if you multiply that by 2080.
So you're at 63 and
Okay,
change. Now, can we?
63.5.
Yeah, okay.
63,500. That's step 1.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Can we get this posted on our job opening? Just in case you get any laterals that want to apply.
The issue is we're competing against other agencies. People are leaving us to go to Syracuse, leaving us to go to Rome. It's kind of, I'm not a big sports guy, but they say it's like the NIL draft where people are just chasing the dollar,
Yeah.
going where they can. So that the name of this contract for the PBA is to be competitive, to get us where, we used to be kind of the diamond in the rough. We paid very well. We were above a lot of agencies and we've fallen away from that.
Mhm.
I think we can get back there.
But my question is, my point, it's not on the city job opening site. So if somebody wants to apply,
I wasn't aware it wasn't on the website.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
Yeah, absolutely.
the account clerk is.
Yeah.
But
We circulated it on Facebook, but yeah, we'll put it on there.
was just curious to see if it was that.
Yeah, I get that from Jessica, and she hasn't given me anything, you know, with the
Okay.
job descriptions, and she hasn't.
I did speak with Jessica today regarding the position openings we have across the city. Currently, right now, we do not have a single focus or anybody in control of having those openings. I know you asked last week about it, so I touched base with her, talked to her again today. She is providing that. We do not have an all-encompassing list, and you're absolutely right. Those should be reflective
Right.
on our openings on the website. So,
Yeah.
Facebook, social media is great to get out there. Heck, I'll share it too. But at the same time, we got to have a control of
Right.
what's open and what's available to get it out there.
I mean, if I'm looking for a job and I wanna look, and I wanna see what Oneida has,
Even on Indeed, Jessica's running our Indeed, and she's keeping up with what she can with the hours that she's
Sure.
working right now. And
Yeah.
and thankfully has been gracious with her time to really keep things chugging along as she can. But yeah, certainly I'll follow up on that and get it on the city website. I'll get something together. Sandy, can you?
I need a job description.
Okay,
You know, like she usually gives me like a position listing with the title and whether it's civil service exam and all that kind of
I'll
stuff.
take a look and get something together.
Yeah, I do copy for the newsletter. I do put your flyer usually in most of the newsletters too,
I know, I've seen that.
after I do the job postings.
But well, like I said, we're being aggressive right now, opening backgrounds, trying to get those vacancies filled. So I guess my question is, if what I would like to work through is the consideration of going in and knowing that the PBA is going to negotiate some, right? That's a consideration for 2025 in the budget and salary line. But also, can we work through maybe budgeting for some extra positions? And how that looks is, so earlier this year, I had to come back and ask for an amendment to my staffing table. So if we could budget for put it in for the 3 extra positions as a number, so give me the 18 positions, and then maybe budget for 1.5 positions, or somehow can we work over the next 3 years to put a plan in place, a potential plan in place to get that done, whether incrementally. And that does not preclude us from seeking grant funding. I'm not talking about supplanting, I'm talking about other positions within the police department, whether it's accreditation and training, things like that. With the amount of vacancies that we have now, everybody's experiencing extreme workload and doing the senior comp clerk job. So grant applications are not high on my priority list because day-to-day operations are. So, want you to know that we're still active in grant funding, seeking that as time and staff allow.
so I would say, so, I mean, typically, I don't think, we don't budget for potential contract increases, right? We would pull that out of fund balance.
Being this late,
Typically.
Huh?
being this late into it, yes.
Yeah.
Because we don't even have even a remote ballpark.
Right.
The-
It's a 2%.
Some years it's been built into the budget when we were negotiating with the tail end and we knew.
Sure.
But with having zero idea with all 3 contracts,
I would say let's put the money back into fund balance and then depending on what, I don't know what the ballpark is, but, you can kind of estimate into next year and the money that you have to play with, so.
I just don't want to, I guess I just wanted to have the conversation
Sure.
openly,
Mhm.
that weighing all of the factors, trying to come up with an operational department, trying to recruit, retain,
Right.
add potential, reduce risk.
Okay, so then the other thing, so there's 5 vacancies and how many did you have coming down the pipe?
I've got 3, so total of 8
vacancies?
total right now.
Right now?
I've got 3, but that includes 3 that are on field training.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be reduced to 5 in January.
Oh, okay.
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 So 3 field training.
So they're still at their higher rate, that initial,
Yeah.
it's less than, it's
So
23.34
they're
now.
higher, they're just not on the road.
Correct, they don't count.
Okay, so five.
They count respectively,
Yes.
but don't count.
Right,
5 vacant, January 1. My opinion, I would rather try to fill those first before we start adding and overtaxing,
I kind of agree with that.
you know?
Can we increase the number in the staffing table
to 18.
to 18? Here's what we ran into, is that I had money, had to delay things when people presented themselves.
Mhm.
I don't want to have to delay things. If somebody presents themselves and we're in a position to,
Move forward.
You're saying increase it, but don't. budget
Not the
for it.
dollar amount.
not the dollar amount.
I support
And
that.
if it comes back to maybe a dollar amount, then we can have a conversation and whatever that plan is.
I could be agreeable with that.
I agree with that.
Do
The
we
other,
do that in the
Yeah.
budget?
Huh?
Do we do that in the budget? Because we're looking at dollars,
Well, it's set by a council
right?
as an
Can we do an
adopted
asterisk?
resolution. And I would come back to you
let's do
for,
15 and put a note. We actually approved 18 positions, but are
Well-
increasing.
Well, now you're gonna have potentially six retirements.
4 of which are 6 of the current sergeants. So you're theoretically, you could have 2 sergeants. Do you think
well, we'd have to backfill and promote.
that, right, exactly. So that would create more vacancies in the officers potentially.
It's gonna be something.
Yes. I support
So-
that. However, we have to
So right now-
document it.
Right now, on the books, we have, 15 patrol officers.
That's what we budgeted.
That's what we have.
Budget, yep.
Right.
We have, how many supervisors?
You'd be using this year's money, but then next year you'd definitely.
We have 6 sergeants.
We have 6 sergeants,
For
correct?
that money.
What is the normal ratio of supervisors to patrol?
Span of control is at a sergeant level, is generally 3 to 5. So one of those 6 sergeants is a CID sergeant who oversees 3 investigators, plus the evidence position.
So essentially, we have 5 road sergeants with 15 patrol officers.
Correct.
And we have 2 lieutenants.
So like 1 to 3.
Okay. Do we do that, those 18 positions at the budget, or do we just do it at a council meeting?
That's what
So-
Yeah, it's by resolution.
Yeah.
Do it by resolution?
Yeah. So, and here's the good thing. I failed to mention this, and it is a piece of good news. We have a tentative agreement is going to be on the next council meeting with the city school district. Come to find out, the city school district can't employ crossing guards. We've always employed the crossing guards, and they have agreed to cover salary and fringe for all of our crossing guard positions. So I have a tentative agreement that'll be coming in. It'll be roughly about $34,000 for the term of the school year. So that's what we've budgeted for our crossing guard positions.
the director and the.
Yep, those will all be covered by the school district.
So there's
That's
no cost to
We've always
the
paid it,
department.
correct.
Okay.
And we have it, we've always had the budget for it. Yeah, thankfully,
Yeah.
the assistant chief looked into that and did a phenomenal job working out those details, and they're covering. So it's, what's reflected in my budget is the salary amount, but they're covering fringe, which just comes out of the general
So
line for that.
25 is gonna go away then, essentially.
But I'm saying it can still be included in the budget as consideration as we move into, is maybe we can
Well,
work in
Yeah.
a 16th position or offset. That's what I'm talking about, absorbing some of the cost
Mhm.
on a schedule to increase
Is
staff.
that showing its revenue? The 30?
Not yet. I have it circled. It's not included yet because the agreement's not signed.
we can't change revenue anyways.
Well,
So really, it would go
we're
up.
showing it as an expense, we should show it.
But
Well,
as in, we can't go back now and make an adjustment to revenue.
Who
We
can?
can only touch expenditures,
Who can?
Mayor, well, manager.
No, again.
Again, you're gonna wait till that contract.
Yeah, so the reason why it's showing it's not showing
Yeah.
is because it just wasn't,
So potentially next week though. Okay. 'Cause
If
that
you get it to me.
if I get it by Thursday, among other things.
okay.
Steve, on the sergeants, does that fluctuate from year to year, or is that,
That's-
what comes to this? That,
That's stagnant. And so I think it's a cart before the horse, or chicken or egg conversation, maybe not cart before the horse. Like I said, our staffing had increased, the job has increased. We're asking more of our personnel, so we need to have the managers in place to handle all of the new oversight and intricacies of the police department, the day-to-day operations. So those, in my professional opinion, are much needed. Now we just need to boost up our patrol officers to get our sergeants taking on their 100% true duties as supervisors. Where now we're kind of like in this hybrid model where our sergeants are
on the road?
on the road, pulling cars over versus doing the supervisory tasks that we need them to do.
I think what I would like to see is, as these retirements come in, fill the road positions first. And then kind of work the way backwards.
Oh.
Because you're within the span of control, sounds like. And
We
then-
will work it as we can.
And then once we get filled, because the ones burning out are the ones working all the overtime. And then once we fill those, then look at adding additional positions.
But if we don't fill them, then the other sergeants are gonna take on more work and they're gonna get burned out faster.
Right. Some of the sergeants are taking on a lot of the overtime on the road, so they're
Right.
taking on the
That's
job of an
That's
officer.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Put the sergeant position as an officer and fill that.
We've got people doing all sorts.
I know.
Everybody's it's all hands on deck right now.
Right.
We've got our evidence custodian is running backgrounds for us right now. He has taken on, volunteered for a temporary investigator position to help with on-call. And also have it carry a caseload where he typically didn't carry a caseload, help out with sex abuse cases. Those are very timely, that the investigators work on, that require a lot of attention and focus. It's a lot of moving pieces.
Sure.
So much needed in contemplation of making sure that road patrol, which is the backbone of any police organization, has what they need.
Do you recruit out of these, is there like academies you recruit out of? I mean, how does that?
So in New York State, there are pre-employment academies, which are run, the ones locally are out of Morrisville and out of Mohawk Valley Community College. And so it's essentially a college course where there's 80% of the police training is covered, it's paid for by the person. And that is typically is like 9 months. It's usually like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all day Saturday, every other week, every other Saturday. And that's, we accept that, and then the person only has to attend what's called a phase 2, which is the police training aspect, which is typically 3 weeks. It's firearms, anti-terrorism, baton, and supervised field training, which you can only do if you're with a police agency. So it is an attractive thing for people to do, and we do recruit there. I used to teach at those academies. It's usually the people that teach at the full-time academy, you get contracted by the college to go in and teach them at classes. So it's a secondary employment.
We got any of our senior guys contracting to go teach night classes at the,
It's a tough sell because they are also running up against time. Is the time that the hourly wage of the college paying versus an overtime rate at the police department?
yeah.
That's the rub.
So what I would say we get 3 or 4 more, then I would say maybe we'd look at doing a resolution to add more,
Okay.
rather than taxing January 1.
Got it.
What's everybody think?
I think that's fine, but we wouldn't be taxing January 1, because we're not adding anything to the money line, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're just adding positions.
Positioning,
We're adding
so it's not like we'd be taxing anybody, but.
Well,
But it's, so let's, so I guess to answer to your point, Steve, so you'll see here, the community liaison officer position is budgeted here. That's out of the RVCRI
that
money.
was the grant fund.
That's grant funded, so that position is already accounted for.
Okay.
If I could implore you, so that's a wash.
Right.
Can we increase by one? And the reason why I'm asking is the first focus would be to get up to the 29th position. So when we get there, we have the money to move on the 29th spot for the lieutenant to not have to count towards minimum staffing. Or do we want to wait?
I mean, I would still say let's see what we can fill first. If we can't fill them, we're funding essentially another.
So my overtime budget this year is 3 times the amount that I anticipated it being based on vacancies.
Right.
So, and I had to come back for a budget transfer at one point.
Right.
So that also kept in mind whether or not you put it in my salary line now and I have to move it into my overtime later.
Right.
That's also a consideration here. Is if you give me the salary, whether it's filling a position or paying the overtime, knowing on January 1st I'm not gonna fill a position.
Right.
Or I can come back for.
Well, no, because you're not staff. Are you? No, how does that doesn't make sense, right? So
I fully anticipate having to come back for another budget transfer if 3 of the 6 leave at once
Mhm.
on the road, we're gonna have more shortages than we had in 2024.
Which means more overtime.
more overtime, but if you can't fill the vacant positions,
I've got extra money there, but the position is only budgeted. If we've budgeted for an officer position, let's just say it's $60,000, but in order to cover that, it's gonna cost me $90,000 because of time and a half
you're right.
to cover that opening.
Right.
It's a time and a half. So even though I budgeted for 15 positions, it's really 7.5 if we're gonna count on that for overtime. Because it's at a time and a half rate, so it's gonna be eaten up at a time and a half rate.
Right. So, but your overtime is going to be because you're 5 vacant anyways. So you're filling those 5 vacancies, right? With overtime.
Correct.
If we put 8 vacancies, you're not filling 8 vacancies with overtime.
Right. It doesn't exist yet on the work chart.
Right.
It would be a way to fund.
Right.
To help fund some of that cost.
But if you can't fill the 5 vacancies, there's no sense of putting 3 more in the budget. Once you get to the 5, then I would say, yeah, let's look at.
Yeah, the only sense that it makes, again, is just that it gives a buffer, an anticipated cost. You know,
Say you
I
find
won't have to come back.
Right.
Well, yeah, I won't have to come back and say, hey, we found somebody. I won't have to come back and say, I need more money because I found somebody, and I won't have to come back, hopefully, and say, I need more money to cover overtime. And it will be an anticipated cost that you know, rather than pulling it out of fund balance.
Right.
That's all, I just wanted that to be, with also having the conversation, if the council decides to pull out of fund balance, the cost of living raises. I'm just trying to
Right.
fully get my arms around everything and be as cognizant of it, of all of the moving pieces.
We know it's coming. But I would say you fill 3 spots, then I would say maybe come to us and, all right, I want permission to potentially fill 3 or 4 more.
Okay.
Unless you guys feel otherwise.
Yeah, is everybody else?
And Kyle, feel free to chime in.
I kind of see it both ways. I'm on the fence on.
Yeah, it's a tough decision.
Yeah.
Staffing issues right now, the police are it's a big problem, it's a significant problem. Public safety problem, it's an organizational problem. I think what the chief says makes sense, giving him the tools he needs to go out and say the position's ready, it's budgeted for, it's ready to go. But again, that takes proactive recruiting, right? To get out and make the effort and say, gotta find folks. The answer shouldn't be in waiting for them to come to us.
Yeah.
We gotta take an
100%.
active role in that.
100%. And I will say, we beefed up our recruiting in 2024, and we had 19 people sign up to take our exam. That's more than other counties in the area had for the entire county. So huge thanks to the actually patrol lieutenant who said, I'll take on the recruiting for the department. And he stepped up, and that came with having to shift his work schedule around, causing overtime there or here or there to do those additional things. So everything has a ripple effect of cost.
Right.
Trying to be mindful and offer the best responsible service that we can and be proactive because it's so much. And the other thing is we've had a lot of response from our new guys, and the cops office, the federal cops office just came out and said that it's a good idea to have your new folks be part of your recruiting effort because they just went through it. They just went through the academy, they knew, and they're of the generation to help pull folks that are even remotely interested into the field. So giving them the time, tools, training, and technology to do it is huge, and I appreciate the support of everybody.
That's what I think. I think if we can get up to, say you fill the 3, all right, you're getting close to your 5. Let's look at funding maybe a couple more.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we're saying we need to fund a minimum of $180,000 with the 3 positions.
You know what, the way the budget's looking, I kind of sort of now think about, I agree with what you're saying, because now, what if we don't fill?
Right.
And then we're still.
You've overtaxed.
We've overtaxed.
You might have overtaxed, but
We're gonna take it out either way with
Right.
overtime, so they either budget for it or we're gonna take it out.
it's a planned cost, at least going into 2026. It's- At least partially planned for in 2026. If we get up to full staff, then we don't need to have the conversation we had last year and that we're having again now about getting our numbers up. And that's what I'm trying to be mindful of is the plan that I'm envisioning is how do we get there? How do we get to the 18 by 2027? So if we can absorb costs in this work session in some capacity to get there, I think we've made some steps ahead, knowing that we need to be competitive too with the PVA contract.
Compromise and do 1.
So you're funding the position, but not the amount. Is that?
That would be a resolution though, right?
Well, yeah, we'd have to increase the resolution, yeah, absolutely. And do that.
I mean, the budget is a resolution, so when it passes, whatever's in the budget, whether it's a dollar amount or my staffing table, that is a resolution.
So if we leave it and then say you have a lot of people interested in,
Sure. We're cranking out backgrounds right
could it
now. We've got-
potentially inhibit you from hiring people because we have a meeting twice a month, so I guess I'm looking at like the timing issue of it,
That's what
right?
I'm saying, when you get to
Yeah.
3 or 4.
So once you know, then you can come to us right away and, we'll approve the resolution, whatever we gotta do. I don't wanna hold you back though
Yeah.
either at the same
Here's-
time, so
Here's my
like to see both
concern.
sides.
Here's my concern.
Okay.
Is that as we get into 2025, and even if we're at full staff, now we need to have another conversation next year about getting to an increased number of 18 minimally.
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to put in is at least something to get us already moving in the direction, whether it be a partial,
So,
fund it, increase it to 16, throw $45,000 at it. I'm just being blunt, or some dollar amount, okay, whatever it is, to at least get a step in that direction. That's all.
So you're anticipating using that money anyways, whether
they're gonna
Whether
be
it's gonna
overtime,
come into overtime or
Yeah.
whether it's gonna be in salary.
No, because the shifts are staying the same. You have X amount of shifts, right? So our overtime is is currently trending to fill these 5 vacant shifts?
Our overtime not only covers, so the 100,000 that's in there?
Yeah.
That covers everything from council meeting security to, Fall Fest,
Vacation, sick time.
vacation, sick time. That is all encompassing of every activity that we do.
So that's currently,
That's $100,000
right,
What's the actual numbers?
right now.
Yeah. You know
Or
what they
we're
are.
close to 300,000.
so what I'm saying is you have 5 vacancies that you're filling. If we can't fill those 5 next year, and we've budgeted for these 3 additional, you're not paying overtime for the 3 additional.
No, but we would be using that money to pay the overtime. even though we
You're not
didn't use
paying, so worst case scenario is, best case scenario. You say, chief, we're gonna fund 18 positions,
Yeah.
we're gonna kick in 100, we're gonna just fund them all 100% starting January 1.
Yeah.
Best worst case scenario is for the city financially. We don't, and the money goes back into fund balance at the end of 2025.
Right.
We don't have to spend it in overtime, we don't spend it, because those positions don't currently exist on a work chart.
Mhm.
So to your point,
But we could pull that money out of that if we don't use it for overtime.
it can go into salary. Yep, you can move from
From
salary to overtime.
If we had
If I have to.
excess.
So right now you're at 300,000 for overtime, but we're only
You guys
budgeting
for-
100,000 for next year?
I put in for 150.
As of October 23rd, it was 196,000 overtime so far. What are you at as of right today?
It's a good question. I don't know the exact where we fall.
Somewhere probably around there.
Over 200 right now, probably.
Probably.
We're over 200. We're over 200.
Yeah, over 200.
And by the time we get through the holidays in November, December,
I'm certain you got vacations and.
But so say you do fill these 5, in theory, our overtime should come down.
correct. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Which is why it was a projection on knowing that we can pull money out of salaries into overtime.
Right.
Not sure where we're gonna fall, when we can hire, when we can get candidates. It's a big question mark. It's just based on timing. The other factors to consider with each candidate is what type of degree do they have that we would pay for, and what shift do they land on, and those types of things. And depending on the retirements, so you have senior people leaving, the consideration there is those are people with most longevity. The other thing, and I know the fire department is concerned about this as well, is retirement payouts. So with my 6 people leaving, my senior people have mega time banks. And
You're gonna use their salary.
that's where we don't budget for that, for those payouts, those cash payouts for vacation or unused time off. So that's my other concern, is that my salary line, even though I'm counting on a portion of that to cover my overtime,
Right.
is,
You're also covering buyouts. There's-
well, out of salary.
Out of salary, so there's only so much money there.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to get at is, I don't want to be left in a position, I don't want the council to be left or the city left in a position where we weren't mindful of all of these moving pieces as we got into 2025.
I mean, I would say you're potentially going to have 5 plus 6 vacancies.
Starting January,
Yeah.
not January 1st, some are March, June, August, those times.
So that's 11, 11, but I would say let's try to fill those first before we put
Would
in.
you go on the outside, what's your thought on it?
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's a responsible thing to do is to staff those before we ask for more money from the taxpayers to fund further positions. To the chief's point though, I think what he's trying to get across is that money is getting allocated anyway, right? Whether it's an overtime or through it's a bottom line for a payroll deductee for a road patrol. You know, I am concerned about our police department, and I am concerned about staffing. It's on the precipice of a public safety problem. I will say that. So I would weight it with a little bit more gravitas than maybe some of the other department staffing issues. Because it is going to come to a head here pretty quickly. You know,
You didn't help my decision.
well, I mean, we're talking about a year,
Yeah.
you know, but in reality, right, with our buyouts and time off and vacations and accruals, we're really talking about 6 to 7 months. That is a very short window of time from January to figure out where we're recruiting from, who we're pulling in, and then what that candidate looks like, whether it's, you know, day one, phase one at the academy, or it's lateral, you know.
But does that change the whether or not we fund the 3? We still got to fill these potentially 11 coming up.
Yeah.
So, if I can,
Sure.
the bucket of money in 2025 that is established is only so full. And that with the unanticipated cost of living raises that all the departments are gonna be negotiating, I just wanna be prepared that if I do come back and ask for additional money for staffing to continue to ease the risk and do training and things like that, that those are considered.
Right.
So I guess I have concerns about the bucket of money that in 2025 to make sure that we can accomplish the mission.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine. Yeah, so for my 2 cents, I'm weighting this consideration a little heavier than I would maybe a normal department with staffing issues, simply because we are so low manned. Right now, we are projected to lose another 40% of our workforce in the police department, without anybody on deck right now to back them up. It would be tough for me to go in without a plan. I like plans, right? I like putting things out.
Yes.
I like allocating the funding. I like having pots of money ready to go so we know what it's dedicated for. So that's a very intentional spending. That's what I like about the request is it not only highlights the need and it kind of represents, we as a council, you as a council are paying attention to the need and the requirement. But we're also highlighting the deficiency and saying, we need to do something about this sooner rather than later. But there's a larger conversation to be had too regarding recruitment, how we're getting these folks in. It's not just a carte blanche, you know, let's allocate funds and hope for the best.
Right.
I think we need to be as proactive as possible, maybe more so than we have been, in getting out and finding maybe newer ideas of how to get folks through the door, lateral transfers or recruits from the academies.
Yeah, 100%. And I couldn't agree more with that. And I think when we talk about recruitment, we talk about retention. Both of those things go hand in hand. And the ability to provide opportunity for people. The reason why we're losing candidates is not only the dollar amount that they're being paid right through the door, which comes down to contract issue, but also the opportunities within the organization. And we're making strides to provide additional opportunities through grant funding and through special assignments. We just had our first drug recognition expert for traffic enforcement. He just got certified. Well, he's waiting for the official piece of paper, but he just completed that. And that's something we've never had before. So the department is making great strides. When we need to continue that positive momentum forward as we talk about recruitment and retention, both.
Do we have an idea of what we're putting back into fund balance?
As of right now, we're pulling 800,000 out.
Yeah, there's nothing going back in.
Or pulling out a considerable amount of money.
From fund balance?
Yeah.
Medicare, like our retirement, our Medicare went up almost $900,000 last year for the exact same plans.
Yeah.
Plus our, 3% around the board, which I feel our employees probably deserve more than that, but this is where we're at.
Okay,
So-
so we're pulling from fund balance, nothing's going back in.
It's like 758 right now. I think.
We're pulling too much out of them.
758.
Is what this budget is pulling out. We're gonna be at 0.3% above the bottom threshold of fund balance. That's it. We're at the floor.
Really, we should.
We've got,
And I know this is my budget, but we should be raising taxes, I don't.
We have to,
We have to.
Yeah.
No one likes to, but we have to.
because otherwise, when we sit down to do the 26 budget, we're gonna be scratching our heads, come up with $750,000.
Right.
Directly from the taxpayers, because we won't be able to touch fund balance.
I know nobody wants to go over tax cap, but we were at $3 million over this budget when it came to me. So it's $50,000 for 1%.
Next year, healthcare alone goes up $370,000. Retirement goes up $240,000.
I think I'm gonna support going with that 18 people. And they'll support that budgeting for 18.
I do.
Budget for 18,
Yeah,
So you wanna raise it
you
another,
wanna add another 160,000?
we're gonna spend it anyway.
Not fair.
How about,
I don't like it, but
I know,
we're
how
gonna
about,
spend it.
how about,
We're gonna stay with 15.
We wanna put 150 into sidewalks.
Mhm.
sidewalks?
We have to do
We-
sidewalks.
So you're
They're
talking
like-
adding
it's a
another
grant.
400,000 to this budget.
Exactly.
well, then that should not affect the tax rate. It's a grant.
Well, we gotta match that
We have
grant.
to match it.
It's a matching
Then our
grant.
revenue will also go up. So we should be in that.
We have to spend 150
What revenue?
to get 150.
Yeah, they match
Yeah,
it. Yeah, we don't get reimbursed fully. We have to spend up to 150 and then they match that
Plus they do all this
150.
to the sidewalks.
And I think it was 125.
Yeah, it's not a reimbursement
Yeah,
grant,
no.
it's a matching grant.
Right.
They'll
So
give
we
us
have to
$1 for
pay.
every dollar we
Yeah.
spend.
Either way. I know that's like DPW, so let's.
Well,
Listen, we got, you guys have a monumental task, and I think it's all, you're not wasting my time by having that conversation.
It's a broader discussion,
Yeah.
you know, costs are going up. It's historic cost of living year-over-year increases, you know, your cost of living for everything has gone up, construction costs have gone up, operational costs are through the roof. You know, federal government spending, now look what's going on with Medicare. I mean, a lot of that is not our fault, but we're holding the bag now for that. And we have to come up with something that's.
What if we just finance the 15 instead of 18 then?
Wait a minute, Jeff wrote, the first grant is DASNY for 150,000 and is 100% reimbursable.
We estimated the cost of the sidewalks we were gonna do over $300,000, so we're gonna still have to spend that money to
That's,
get through the program.
that's all of the sidewalks. The total estimated cost for sidewalks in the worst condition only is $125,000.
In the worst condition.
So that should be fully covered by the grant.
But again, we also talked about not band-aiding certain points and then letting others fall through. We were gonna do whole sections and make the city nice.
But it's still, we have to put in, and there's no offset,
Yes, there is.
not in the budget.
This says there's 150,
We can't change revenue. So we're gonna add 120 or 150,000.
we can't. The city manager can.
I don't think after it's presented, it can
I think
change.
after the budget's
Once
presented.
it's presented,
You know,
revenue's
Well,
set.
a grant is a
Maybe
grant.
question.
You could do a grant anytime throughout the year.
So we just won't budget for sidewalks. We'll do an amendment later after the fact.
So you're spending, yeah, I mean, that's typically
We're just
what
gonna
we
keep
do,
pushing
right?
down the road until it never gets done.
No.
That's the
No,
problem.
that's not happening. We're doing the sidewalks this
No,
year.
sidewalks gotta be done.
Or in 2020.
Say we get a grant mid-year, what happens and we didn't budget for it? Like your
Budget.
community liaison.
We do a budget amendment,
Yeah, so we
so,
fund it somehow.
right,
Fund it
Exactly.
and you get reimbursed.
right.
We get different.
Well, I think,
Yeah, we have to.
yeah.
Let's do
So,
DPW.
all right, so do you guys wanna take a vote on it?
On what?
On all three, should we fund one, maybe put a couple in there for later, and not fund them like you originally talked about?
I think we should fund the 15 and then,
We already have 15 funded.
are we, okay.
15 are funded if, as it comes down to the pay rates of the title changes that we have, if I could advocate there just briefly before we take
Yeah, we-
aside from the sworn positions, the additional positions, but let's talk about people who are currently here. For the senior account clerk position plus the police records clerk, moving that up to be all the same $46,700-ish, that, in that ballpark.
I thought these were set.
I had put in for them, but they were,
They're new positions, so I can move the salary around.
so
They're not
he
set.
didn't cut it back to zero, cut it back to the original.
I didn't cut it back, but I did cut some off.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So the
So-
records clerk and the
Yeah.
operator, you want.
I put it in closer, I put it in just closer to 50, and, when I went through the mayor's, or city manager's review at the
Okay.
time, it was the difference between the two pay rates.
I had asked Leanne about the account clerk for DPW. She said these salaries are outlined by CSEA collective bargaining agreement.
These are new.
Yeah,
these are
so,
new
so the account
positions.
clerk is, what we're talking about is, police records clerk, or administrative aid police, because the job function is very specific. And again, the reason why these spots are important is this is also, while patrol is extremely important, that's the front face of the police department. The support aspect of it, the account clerk position, the police records clerk, every piece of paper that funnels through her office, that job is I can't express to you how important that is. So,
The account clerk you're talking about.
the police records clerk.
So you're
records.
requesting.
All three. The police records clerk, if we could get that up to 46. Leave senior account clerk, and then telephone operator also at 46.
So you can change these, why?
So because they weren't
Positions.
they weren't budgeted positions before in the police department because they're new positions. You get to set the salary, and I believe now
titles.
that they're set or when they become set, that is the new standard moving forward.
Right, Civil Service Commission has to approve it and all that stuff, so. The senior account clerk has been around, so that's why that's set by the contract.
Okay,
It has to do with civil service title.
okay,
They have to approve it after, but
okay. So in theory, the senior account clerk for DPW should be the same as this one then. Is that right?
That's right.
Let's see.
The community service officer, how much did that go up?
That's, well, it's a new
Went
title.
from
now.
43 to
So
50.
it's 60,
Community service
64.
officer?
Senior account clerk
6,400.
for DPW is 47,519.
Okay, so that's-
Doesn't show.
Probably longevity.
right,
for
and
sure.
it might not be the starting salary though.
No, he's saying it's higher.
Right.
Right.
But it's been there for a while, so it might have 3%
Oh,
increase
it's-
over time.
She might have longevity if it's in the DPW, she's got some longevity stuff there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, she does the one turkey.
Yeah,
The big jump on
yeah.
community service officer, police dog warden, that's same, right?
What's that? Yes.
Police dog warden, community service
Correct.
officer, same one, right?
Yep.
Why is that such a large jump?
Because he deserves it. He goes out and, he does a lot. Scott is very good at getting compliance, whether it's through an actual appearance ticket, addressing issues. He's the parking, going out and writing parking tickets, handling aggressive dogs. We call him to handle the dog complaints. That type of hazard in assisting on different warrants or vacant properties and things like that. He has a lot. And
It's chickens now.
chickens now, yeah, but adding,
We had 3 applicants for chickens.
So how do you come up?
Right, but it's also just started, so.
and that was in
honestly,
comparison to like other areas, their community service dog, so what I outlined for the CSO position, he handles more than just dogs, he follows up on licensing and permits, dog licenses. When you look at just dog warden or dog control officers, they're at like 56,000. If you look on the average, So the fact that he has all of these other responsibilities, it's trying to bring him up with a competitive wage.
How long has he been here?
Almost 20 years. He's getting ready
And
to
he's making 43,000.
he's
Like-
getting ready to retire. And so even to replace somebody of his quality, and he's worth every penny.
Absolutely. Well, he needs, I mean, that's practically poverty level.
How do you come up with, like these numbers? So 52,777 and 42,897,
Where are you looking?
the salary schedule.
Um,
If we're able to set these, how do we come up with these amounts? 44,777.
I don't know how these were come up. I don't know how they came up with those, but I think actually mine were higher.
Okay,
And then those are after it went through some modifications and cuts by the city manager.
Is it based off an hourly rate?
so how
It
did,
is hourly.
That's where it comes from.
oh, you cut it in half.
Almost.
So basically,
In some cases, yeah.
He cut the difference in half.
Yeah,
oh,
so chief asked for some, I cut it in half, and now it's presented to you.
so I guess why aren't we doing like even numbers? How do we come up with like
Based
50
off an hourly rate.
Hourly rate, yeah.
hourly rate? So how do we come up with the hourly rate?
It was based on some estimations, based on what we were finding comparable wages for different classes.
Okay,
So, like for example, the senior account clerk position was,
so like,
44,700, which is lower than what it was before.
so 44,797, so 21.53 an hour. So I guess why not 21.54 an hour or 21.55? How do we? There's got to be some sort of step schedule that we're following. Or it's a question I could pose to Leanne. Let's see.
We ended big pieces.
The original
Yeah.
department heads.
Oh, she had nothing to do.
So I don't have it. I don't have that piece of paper in front of me. What I had provided to Leanne for the original positions.
I guess I'm looking for, I sent out that email, just some sort of consistency in policy that we can, like, here's a performance review, here's the next step. Here's what they.
So part of it is that the reason why, so if somebody falls into a civil service title, like councilman.
Sure.
So if there's not another grade in civil service, like councilman 1, councilman 2.
Yeah.
Then there's no opportunity for promotion within that title.
Yeah.
So that's why we went from account clerk to senior account clerk, because those titles existed.
Mhm.
Now we're trying to work to bring pay rates into the work that people are doing and what they should be paid for by creating titles that also fit and capture what people are doing. So that's why you're seeing the difference in titles and
Right.
trying to feel out base pays and things like that that are reasonable.
Right.
So that's why it's weird. And I see what you're saying with consistency, so it's not so arbitrary
Right.
and
That's what I'm trying
Objective.
to get away from,
yeah.
so that,
But we can't create, well, not that we can't. Absent a full-time civil service person, it's difficult to have these changes and explore titles that fit what we're trying to achieve.
Right.
So in other words, we could find like, if an existing title there's something for a police aide, and there's a police aide 1, 2, and 3, then we could say, okay, well, based on it,
Right.
now we can evaluate a promotion of police aide 2, or along those lines. But it's among a host of other things, trying to get everything done at once, with
Right.
so much other stuff. It's a job.
right. All right, well,
I think with this budget too, you'll see a lot of these clerks, operators, I kind of put up a little bit because they need to start making a comparable wage with everyone else, or we're just gonna have people lose league forever, so.
Part of it's talent. We're trying to keep the talent, and we've got really good people, the employees, in my department, and with throughout the city. But I'm going to advocate for my department.
right, of course.
and they are people that know the job. And so when we look at the impact within the organization, and we've seen it already in 2024, to have to bring up people back up to speed for very intricate, nuanced positions. Day-to-day operations suffered, the whole city ended up feeling that. So we're trying to put a stop back there.
It's retention as well, right?
That's exactly it. Yep, retention. But I think retention, I feel like that's, I don't want to just keep saying that word, but I really
No, but it's what it is, what it
give
is.
some context to it.
We're all in a difficult position because we're trying to look out for the city and also the taxpayers, so.
Yeah.
And the taxpayers don't have anything left if we keep.
And I'm gonna give you as much information as I possibly can on why these numbers are what
I
they are.
agree with manager. The fact that fire and police both are very essential, and that's places we shouldn't be scrimping at, so to speak. But I don't wanna see us overburden our taxpayers either at the same time.
All right, so what do you guys want to do? We're talking in circles here, I think, so.
Yeah.
Can we restore those dollar amounts to before the cuts were made by the city manager for the support personnel? Or table that? I'm happy to come back for another work session if we need to get those clear.
We don't have those broke down.
No.
We don't have the breakdown of the support staff numbers
Before the cut.
before you cut them.
But we do have what,
Well, you're just
Well, I
asking
think
to
I've seen
bring
their
down to
contract makes
46,
some
is that what you're asking to restore to the original?
What I
Proposed departments.
Do you have a copy of that?
I don't.
Okay.
Are one of these which one's vacant? Is there one vacant?
The senior account clerk position is vacant.
Okay.
We're contracting payroll services with the person who occupied it before.
Okay,
And we're looking for candidates to fill that.
okay.
I think maybe we should just leave it where it is for now with the manager's budget. And then, have the city manager evaluate down the road for next year's, and then do the raises next year.
Can I plead bringing that police records clerk up to be equal to the senior telephone operator position?
I'd be okay with it. I'd be okay.
I'm gonna say, we're on the flip side now of what we're.
Can we flip-flop them?
sure it's your intention?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna take away from the senior account clerk and put it to we can't, right?
No.
No. So you're saying?
So you want to bring it up to 4479, or even 45?
Yes, correct.
45?
If you made, you could keep it easy, simple, senior telephone operator 45, police records clerk 45.
I like having them.
I just don't like this arbitrary stuff. We did the same thing with the auctions.
But again, we have positions in different departments making $5,000-$6,000 less there.
How long has Eileen been here?
Right, there's no consistency.
So why not put it to be consistent right now?
Quite a while, and Sherry too, right?
Sherry's
If this
Sherry's got
person's
20.
making salary,
I'm gonna just take it down in this department, but how is this person doing this?
Sherry's the only of three that predates me.
He just said that they're different.
I'm fine with that.
We wanted this off with, let the city manager evaluate for next year.
That's what I would like to do. That's why
The thing is, then it's, the positions are in the contract. Right now, these things don't have a base in the contract. Once we establish the budget, Civil Service Commission approves the positions, whatever we set these at becomes the base pay.
that's the baseline.
Then changing it, now we're getting into union contracts.
That's my point. I don't like doing the arbitrary stuff because we did it with the auctions and it got us in trouble. So I'd like to see a process. That's the whole point of bringing on the city manager, and so we have some consistency. We do this all the time.
So then 3% raises forever is what people are gonna get no matter what.
No, it'd be based on a performance evaluation.
Yeah.
We can't,
Well,
we
based on-
can't, we
Not
can't
for
do,
union.
Oh,
well,
right.
yeah,
He's
that's,
talking about, we're all talking about different stuff.
oh, I'm sorry.
So,
I mean,
let's put it to a
Something's
vote.
gotta be based on performance, you
Well,
gotta evaluate.
So, well, let me,
You just can't
let-
arbitrarily, everybody gets it,
yeah, and I guess
what,
operationally, if these people were to leave my organization tomorrow,
We wouldn't.
who am I gonna fill? Like, I can't fill, I
Yeah,
can't
but
find a
you can't
single.
see, you can't limit it that either, people are gonna leave, well, other,
No,
you're
but-
gonna leave, I mean.
Jim, what I'm saying
We have
is that
to
it's
be
competitive,
competitive
like,
with
shoot, with
everyone
the
else.
private industry
When
versus
you're not
public service.
competitive, what's
Making $37,000.
other municipalities and what are, I mean, let's
I
compare
guess
apples to apples.
the better, so my thought, if we don't give this, an $1,100 increase from the 2025 adopted, are they gonna leave because of that?
I think that it's about,
It's hard to tell, you can't predict.
can't predict.
well, as he said, it's anticipated the CSO will be retiring. And dog wardens in other communities make around 56,000, we're paying 40-some thousand.
Wow.
How are we gonna fill that position?
Which communities?
Which communities?
Town of Lennox. Town of Lennox is
Way
one,
smaller community.
they have,
Oh,
they
Tom
have,
Lennox is huge.
they have a huge, but it's a part-time position that's on call, and they're making 50-some odd thousand.
Part-time? Sign me up for that.
I don't know.
Get your application out.
100
I
grand.
got a few openings right now.
So, all right, well, let's put it to a vote. I would say, so the police officer, if you wanna do 16 without adjusting the funds, at least there's a step in the right direction. And then I'm gonna say, leave the salaries as they are. And then.
Now, these clerks, the senior clerks that we're talking about here, are they, lost my train of thought here. They're union?
They're CSEA and critical to the operations.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying, but they are, I mean, so they're not, I don't like the way to say it, at will, they are union.
Correct.
Okay.
So, I actually support raising it up to what he wants. At the county, and I don't mean to bring up the county, but I have a team of entry-level people that are making close to 23 entry-level, right? And they just start, so that's like right around 45,000. I think we should at least bump it up to 45.
You're
And it's
talking
not
about-
e-
you're
and-
talking about
and
the police
these-
records clerk you're talking about.
Talking about both.
Okay.
The other
Senior telephone
which is
operator
pretty much
and.
45.
They've been
police
here.
records clerk.
They've proven themselves, they're loyal. I think we need to raise them up. We don't
So
raise them.
$203,
For the senior telephone operator.
right? $200 there, and you're talking,
3. Oh, sorry.
2.
Yep.
2.
I could go with it, yeah, I'd be okay with that.
I'm good with that.
With what?
45 on both.
45 on
that's-
both, I'm okay with
With the records clerk and the telephone operator?
Mhm.
it. I'm okay with that.
You guys are all good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so 45.
What does that make it out hourly, Jim? Just curious.
Let me,
Trying to figure that out.
34 and a half hours.
How much?
It's 2508. If it's 34 and a half hours, is that what it's based on? Or 2508?
thank you.
Yeah, 40.
It's 30,
Well, they get an
It-
hour paid lunch, so it's technically 39 and a
They're
half.
all,
they don't work quite a 40-hour work week.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, police records clerk, senior telephone. Both 45.
45, yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, here's the good news here that we're playing with is that those crossing guard positions are now funded by the school district. So there's $35,000
Okay.
unanticipated revenue that is not reflective in anything that we have here. So that's, should help ease your minds.
Okay.
Okay.
So if we do that, then I'm going to say, once you get to like 3 or 4 positions that you're filling, then I would say come to us. Unless you guys feel otherwise.
Wait, so
Yeah.
come to you to talk about
Your
Increasing the number.
additional
Yeah.
police officers.
just the number itself or allocating funds as well?
Well, we'd have to allocate and get ready to fill it.
Okay.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good with
And it sounds like you're gonna work towards like a plan of recruitment and
We will,
do the best.
we
you
are,
can.
yes,
I know,
yeah,
I
we're
know,
working,
I know,
we're
I know
working.
you're working. I know,
I've got, yeah,
I know.
we're working on it.
Or you go to college tour, yeah, hit them all up.
I know it's tough. I mean, we're in the same boat where I work now. We're in the same boat. We're underpaying our employees and we're not keeping them. So I understand completely.
And I know it's tough and I appreciate your perspective on everything.
Sure.
Okay, so we did salaries and overtime.
Fire chief's like,
So the,
It's not snowing yet.
just a, very simple items just to work through. Our step was cut from 29,000 that I had put in for. That's funded through the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee. That is grant reimbursed, so I would ask that that be restored.
What is that again? What line?
We are talking about,
108 then.
108.
Okay, so it's going back up from 9 to 29?
Hang on a minute. So the GTS revenue is 26,024
Oh, no, I'm not seeing it.
on the revenue side.
Yep, so
Oh,
there's $12,000, $12,524 for police traffic safety, and then another 10,000 in highway safety. The remainder of that is a buffer to account for any shift differential or overages if somebody gets held up on an arrest. It's the plan for that. So if you wanted a complete wash on that, then budget for the 26.
Can we do that?
That's fine. That's fine.
If any of the, if there's a case like that, it would just come out of overtime, I would guess.
Along with everything else.
Okay. So 26,024 for step.
Um,
The G.
Clothing,
Let's see.
clothing is the only other thing that, to talk about. That's partially contractual. Each officer gets $750 per year.
Hang on a minute.
I'll do that for you, Steve.
What to say? Sorry, I was
Nope,
trying to calculate this.
Which part?
26,024 minus 9,000. So we gotta go up 17,024. Okay. Total. Okay, go ahead.
Yep.
Sorry.
So going down to clothing, which is 317. The 56,336. What I based that on was existing. If just counting what officers at 17 would have at $750, it's $12,750. If we were to hire 6 new hires, a new hire uniform plus bullet resistant vest is in ballpark close to $5,000 to include everything that they initial issue, uniforms, boots, all the equipment is about $5,000. So if we were to hire 6 people, that's $30,000. Annual vest replacements also comes out of clothing. And bullet resistant vests are on a 5-year replacement schedule. We have 4 people that are due next year, 6,000. That's $48,750. And that doesn't include any extraneous recruit uniforms. If we send somebody to a police academy, we have to clothe them for whatever the academy requires. PT gear, training gear, whatever different nuanced things that we have to pay for also comes out of clothing, so it leaves a balance of $7,500 in there. So if we send 6 people to the police academy, $7,500 isn't gonna cover it, but that's just a projected cost depending on if we have to send somebody, it's a dollar amount that we can work with.
Okay.
So that's how we got to the $56,000 number. Now, again, it's all projections, the things that will happen minimally are that we will have 17 people with $750 to spend on their clothing allowance. That does not factor the residual amount they can carry from 24 into 25. They could go put $250 into that, making it closer to $9,000. We will be hiring at least 6 people next year, so that's 30. And then we do have 4 vest replacements at $6,000. So minimally, we're talking $48,000 for clothing.
We have the revenue from the grants at 5.
So for new hires, the vest will be between the feds and the state's linked to pay always. For new hires, they'll pay 50%, the state will pay. And then we get recurring the federal vest reimbursement to cover half of their replacements. So that is
100%.
for new hires. And then the 4 replacements will only be half covered.
So 4. So. Okay.
Up into 48.
What's everybody think?
So 36 is not gonna even cut it off the replicate.
No.
What would be you got 56,336. What would be your bottom line?
It's 48,660, right? Or something.
48,750.
Or if we just go for this 49 and then go from there. If we need to give them more, we just figure it out.
48,750. So clothing.
So up to 48,750. I think we don't have a choice.
So clothing is plus 12,414 to a total of 48,750.
Okay.
Then we'll just have to, if they need more, we'll have to figure out.
Okay. Contracts.
Nothing changed from there. Training decreased 15.
Yeah, training got cut. The reason why that went up significantly is depends on which police academy we send people to. We try to use the full-time academies, which is what we pay for the attendance there. If we go to NBCC, it's $2,500 per recruit. If we go to Broome County, that is $1,700 per recruit. Again, but they have to live down there for a week. So, and also that starts in March, Broome County. NBC starts in May.
You pay for their housing too down there?
Free housing, no cost if we pay for housing.
Okay.
Yep. Or no cost if we go to Broome for housing. It's all included.
Okay.
They say an old psych ward. 5-star rating.
What is it? 2,500 times 5?
Maybe it's part of our recruitment problem.
Yeah, that's what we don't. That doesn't make the packet.
Big package.
Well, by the way, you're going to a psych ward.
They're problem statewide.
So that's why we saw the addition. That's why it was budgeted for what it was, because The other thing that we're concerned with is just the other expenses with academy training, books, and then reality-based training gear, if there's any requirement there, taser cartridges, ammunition, the other big piece of it. On average, they need about, depends on the academy and whether or not they need to remedial when they shoot. We're talking anywhere between 25 and 3,000 rounds of 45 pistol ammunition.
That's all?
That's all. So that's the consideration. If we're anticipating 6 people going through, this budget was prepared for 6 people minimally in 2025. Trying to hit a moving target, so to speak, as we talk about. Not just the steel either, Mr. Mitchell.
I get it.
So we can leave it with what's proposed here, and if we run into a situation for training, I can come back if that's how you want to fly that.
That's fine.
Now, and I mean, kind of off subject here, but the ammo that they use is not training ammo. It's actually what they use in the field? Or is it?
No, it's ball. We'll shoot ball for the prep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know to qualify, they have to use whatever they use, okay.
Yeah, duty
But
ammo.
for practice, they can use, okay.
Yeah. It's it just depends on what what the courses of fire are and the academy
The
themselves.
reason why I ask is, practice ammo's a lot cheaper than,
But we don't shoot we don't, by department policy and training standard, we don't shoot reloaded ammo.
oh, absolutely.
It's all factory load, so no savings there.
No, I understand.
Next.
Any other questions for me?
What's the,
Crime prevention, 17.
Crime prevention is up to 17. That is partially refunded, or grant funded, out of the highway safety grant.
Okay.
what's like, is it 17 in revenue?
Wash there.
Okay.
So 13 is fun. On a quick count of my traffic safety stuff, it's about roughly 13, almost 14,000, actually 14,000. And then it was started at original amount in years past where it's 3,500. And then we looped it into one to pay for these. And this is everything from sticker badges to crime prevention stuff for the kids, glow sticks for
Water
Coloring books.
coloring books, all of that comes out of crime prevention line. The Save a Life tour again, that's Save a Life is
I think that's important.
governor's traffic. That's a virtual driver simulator that we do up at the high school.
What's the new hire expense?
New hire expense, those are costs for the psych eval and polygraph exams. New York State requires this for any new hire to do in our agency policy,
What do those run now?
500 apiece, so $1,000 per new hire.
So say you do 15. Okay.
That's just for new hires. It's
Correct. Yep. So it's 500 for a poly, 500 for a psych. So if we hired 6 or 7 people, then that's where that comes from. It wasn't originally budgeted. That came out of the civil service budget, and then civil service said we can't pay for this anymore out of our budget. So that's why we're seeing it as a line item now.
On to the taxpayers. Okay.
You wanna talk about your capital project, or isn't it anything you need to talk about tonight?
We can talk about it. That was a rough estimate on a water fountain. So early on this year, we had an escapee, that, the precipitating event from that, so currently right now at the police department, we don't have a shower, and we don't have a water fountain anymore. So in order to get arrestees water, we have to physically leave the room, get a plastic cup, go to the break room, which is just across the hall, but out of sight of anybody that's handcuffed to the bench. And this particular incident, the officer left the room for 50 seconds, actually 49 and some odd seconds, to get a glass of water for the arrestee, and at which he moistened up his wrist, slipped the handcuff, and left out of the other door. So I'm trying to put a mechanism in place to provide access to people that have to get a drink of water. It's not just a cup of water. So that's part of that project. And it's more expensive to put in a water fountain than I had anticipated, but also
What about water coolers?
I was gonna say a water cooler.
that's an option. Also, same concern that any type of thing like that is subject, people, if we put it in our squad room, people get rowdy sometimes and could create more of a mess than what it's worth.
Okay.
How about a door,
What type of door?
one that you can see through?
Okay. That's got a lock and unlock and some type of electronic lock.
Yeah.
The cost to do that is,
It's pretty significant.
yeah. Happy to put a door in. That is just a preliminary number, we haven't got formal estimates or anything like that. We looked at water fountains that are just run of the mill, but in order to run plumbing and electric to the water fountain, that's where the cost is gonna come in. And some of that can be done in-house, but some,
Maybe that, if there's some way we could water cooler or some sort of.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Even just bottled water later tastes like on hand.
A mini fridge with some bottled water.
What's that?
A mini fridge with some bottled.
Yeah,
So,
Just bottled water.
yeah. I mean, instead of water cooler,
piece
just
of water.
just a refrigerator with a,
Huh?
That's a good idea. It's a good idea.
you could secure it.
Right there.
It can't be.
Alright, okay, so I will send everybody an email tomorrow. We have the increase of about a little over 30,000.
thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Could you let me know if that Gideon Lennox comes up? Yeah, Gideon Lennox comes up with a part-time dog control officer, I'd be interested.
You have to fight Kim Bogan, or, what's her name? Kim,
She's still doing.
She's still got that?
I think so.
Well, her 56 grand a
Or is
year.
it-
Too, so.
You know what, I might stand corrected. If that's not Lennox, it's Sullivan. It might be the top.
That's fine.
I was gonna try to figure out okay with Sullivan.
Yeah, it's-
Okay.
Oh, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chief. Good night.
Steve, wait.
Just if there's any question